Update. Am I the a-hole for getting a job to get out of taking care of my husband's autistic niece? Original post. My husband, 30 male, became the legal guardian to his sister's daughter, 17 female, 2 months ago. She lost her single mom last year. My in-laws took her in, but they were too old. That was when my husband became her legal guardian despite my concerns. He told me that he would take care of her completely. We got married a year ago after 15 years of dating. I had a very successful career in a very physically and mentally demanding field, and I had to travel a lot. We wanted to start a family, and I agreed to be a stay-at-home mom. I quit my job a few months into the marriage when I got pregnant. Sadly, I had a miscarriage. Then his sister died and everything is on hold. In the meantime, I took a part-time job in a related field which allows remote work so that I'm not bored out of my mind. My sister-in-law was a nurse. She quit her job to take care of her daughter full-time. Her daughter has a variety of issues, including nonverbal autism, a series of development disorder like dyslexia, and severe sensory issues. My husband says that he does most of the work, but he doesn't. Since I'm working from home part-time, most of the caretaking falls to me. She gets angry and has meltdowns all the time. She doesn't like the food I make, and most of the time she ends up throwing the food at the floor or at me. I am at my wit's end, and it is just so emotionally exhausting. Around December 15, my husband was working late and asked me to take care of dinner. She's very picky about food. The slightest change in texture or taste from what she's used to can cause a meltdown. She threw the plate at my feet and I ended up bleeding. At that point, I called my husband and asked him to be home ASAP. He said he wouldn't be able to. So I went up to my room and told him I am not dealing with this anymore. I came home hours later and she was still crying. He was absolutely furious at me. He called me heartless and irresponsible. I told him I have had enough of both of their ungrateful behavior and told him that I am going to my mom's and I wouldn't be back until New Year's. He panicked and tried to apologize, but I left. He called me every day asking me to come back. I finally came back, and he told me that my stunt had forced him to all available leaves to stay home with her. He told me that he was glad I was back, but I told him that I contacted my former company and got my old job back, and it starts next Monday. It is in office and requires a lot of travel. He asked me who was supposed to stay at home as she cannot be left alone. He has no more leaves and full-time caretakers are too expensive. I told him he promised to take care of everything when he became her guardian and that it was his problem. As you can guess, my family supports me but his family thinks I am being extremely selfish. So I am asking judgment from impartial strangers. Am I the a-hole in this situation? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. Your husband likes being the hero but doesn't have a clue as to how to do the actual work, so he just left it all to you. You have been sorely taken advantage of, and I don't think you are qualified to handle this level of need. Your niece needs expert help. And by referring to your need for a break as a stunt, it's clear he views you as having had a temper tantrum, and he has graciously allowed you to get over your snit but expects compliance from now on. It has also given you a preview of what parenthood will be. You do the work, he gets to enjoy the hour or two of happy, fed and bathed child that he can play with and hand back. Taking care of a special needs child requires some serious work. Opie's husband just wants the good things about having a child, but hands all of the real work to her. He told her he would be the one to take care of her completely, but flipped out when the struggle begins. Caretaker burnout is very real, and referring to Opie's need for a break as a stunt shows just how little he respects and appreciates her work, as well as his limited understanding of what it takes to care for a special needs child. Opie, you're not heartless or irresponsible. You took care of a child that weren't your responsibility. That alone makes you far better than your hubby. You were literally injured taking care of her, but all he cares about is how you didn't do what he promised to do? Get your job back. He's her legal guardian. He has to and will take care of her. He's being massively ungrateful. I feel bad for your husband's niece. Hopefully she gets the help and care she needs. Info. Are you planning on still being married to him? At the moment, no. I'm just trying to see what happens next. But if he doesn't find a solution that expects me to be a full-time carer, then no, I would walk away. Walk away. He will tell you whatever he needs to tell you to make you stay, like you did the first time. And then you will again find yourself being slowly manipulated into the caretaker role. You already know that. That marriage cannot be salvaged. It won't work if your niece stays. And it won't work again if your niece is placed in a home. This is over. He will resent you, and you have found out you cannot trust him. There is no more basis for a relationship. Yikes. That's true. How sad. 15 years of dating and 1 year married just to be ruined by family rubbish. True. They can't stay together if the disabled kid is there, and he won't forgive her if he has to send the kid to a care facility. Poor Opie. And now for the update. A lot of people were messaging me for an update, so here goes. I wish I could say things got better. My husband took a few days off to interview special needs nannies/caretakers. He ended up finding a good and experienced person to take on the job. He hired her for 9 to 6 during weekdays. One day, she ended up saying she could not make it for a couple of days due to an emergency. My husband had a meeting he couldn't miss and asked me to look after his niece for the day. I refused, and he took my car keys while I was getting ready and left before I noticed so that I could not go to work. I grew up with a narcissistic, gaslighting father who did stuff like this all the time. So I told him to come back in 1 hour or I will call CPS, and once they get there, I will call a cab and get to work. He ended up driving back, and this turned into a big fight, and I told him that if he does it again, I will walk out and never look back. He apologized and said that he was just desperate. The worst happened 2 weeks ago. I needed to travel for a couple of weeks for work and I could not find my passport. I'm a very organized person and I knew that I did not misplace it. I ended up calling the non-emergency helpline. They ransacked the house and found the passports hidden in his gym bag. It is a crime to steal passports, and they asked me if I wanted to press charges. I said no. Another fight. He told me that he needed me at home that weekend due to a social welfare visit, and he knew that I would not stay even if he had asked me. I finally kicked them both out of my house, and I told him I would call the police if he came near me again. My house is a premarital asset, thank God for that. Then told him that I would be filing for divorce. The welfare visit turned into a mess, as neither of them were living there when the worker showed up, and the social worker also knew about the recent call to the non-emergency helpline. So all in all, she was not impressed with our BS. He came by 2 days ago and told me that he ended up moving in with his parents. They own and live in a small 2-bedroom apartment. That doesn't qualify according to welfare norms, so he ended up asking me for another chance. He asked if I would consider letting him and me stay until they figure it out, or she would have to go to state's care. He told me that there is no way he can afford rent and a carer, and begged me. I told him that I could never forgive what he did. He knew my past with my father, and he still went ahead and did it. He suggested they could move in and we can work on this at a couples counseling. I told him that I could never trust him again, and that it was over. He asked me if he could get his parents to take in Denise, or even relinquished her care to the state, so I would give him another chance. I think months of worth of anger burst that day. I told him that even though it may appear as if the problem between us is niece, it was actually him. He didn't ask me before taking her in. He did nothing to help. He waved my concerns away whenever I felt burnt out. He took on a responsibility without consulting me and dumped everything on me. He chose to take my keys. He chose to hide my passport. I told him things may have been different. Him, niece, and I may have adapted and become a family if he hadn't made a wrong choice at my expense, at every turn. I told him to get out of my house, that it was over and I never want to see any of them ever again. I still don't know if what I'm doing is right or wrong. I know people wanted some sort of happy ending, but it is what it is. I still have not started the divorce proceedings yet, but I will soon. For now, I am taking a break as it had been a very emotional and draining couple of weeks. It's easy to be the selfless hero caring for the poor orphan child when you don't have to actually do a single damn thing. I also noticed that not a single one of his relatives who are criticizing her for being selfish apparently offered to lift a finger until she finally kicked him out. Honestly, it's probably their self-preservation instinct kicking in. If they can guilt someone else into taking care of Denise, they don't have to. Most people cannot take care of a person like this in the US, whether they want to or not. It basically precludes working, and you kind of have to work. I actually consider this a very happy ending for Opie. Divorce is not easy, but she absolutely made a right decision. I read the original post and I'm glad to see the update. That husband is a piece of work. It's not happy at all for Denise, but that's not Opie's fault. I hope Denise receives the support she deserves. To be honest, I'm glad it blew up in his face. Totally deserved. Hope he enjoys the fruits of his non-labor and poor, harmful decision-making. She reverse Uno the heck out of him, and I'm here for it. One of the major lessons from this mess is make a plan for your death. Opie's sister-in-law should have had a plan in place. I know it's a terrible thing to think about it, but look what happens when you don't. I have 2 disabled kids, and we have a life plan for them that includes custody and financials. There are pro bono lawyers who will work with families. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my son's father never mind and that he isn't meeting his kid? My son is 12 and his father has never met him. We had gone to court when my son was like 1, and he at that point said he wasn't ready to be a father and ultimately wanted nothing to do with our child. I was awarded visitation at my own discretion and child support. Well, last year, he had reached out completely random on Facebook and said he was ready to meet our kid and said that he turned his life around and regrets every single day of not being here. At this point, he spoke to our son, but in the end, my son decided he wasn't ready to meet him yet. Not a big deal, really. I mean, his father was angry and tried blaming me at first, but later dropped it and we hadn't heard from him since. Well, he just reached out again about a week and a half ago, and at this point, my son was ready to meet him. We made a plan and everything was great. He was being super attentive and checking in every single day. He appeared to be really involved, and everything was truly great. However, he calls me last night, and I don't know if he was drinking or what was up with his sudden attitude, but he was being nasty and telling me, "I will take the boy from you if you do anything that I don't agree with." He was accusing me of spending the child support money on myself despite me giving him no reason to think this. I told him to stop speaking to me like that, and he said it a few more times before I finally snapped and said, "You know what? Never mind. I'm not bringing my son to meet you when you were telling me you were taking him from me. You're not meeting him," and hung up. I didn't realize my son heard the whole thing. He was standing on the other side of the door and I was unaware. He is obviously on my side, but definitely a bit bummed, and just keeps saying he can't believe his dad had the audacity to treat me like that, and kept saying, "Mom, I want you to know that I would always choose you even if he brought you to court," and it was incredibly sad. I reached out to a friend today because this is seriously mentally destroying me, because I know deep down my son still wants to meet him. And my friend basically told me that I was an a-hole and that I had no right to keep my kid from him. Even went on to say, "So what if it takes him? The cops would find him and charge him with kidnapping, and then your son would know what he's dealing with. But until then, stop depriving your son." Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. What is wrong with your friend? This man is clearly unstable and just made a credible threat to kidnap your child. The cops would find him and charge him with kidnapping. Like, has your friend met any police? It could take days, even weeks to find him. What if he was hiding? What if he left town? Your friend is saying it's okay to gamble your son's safety, and if he gets abducted, it'll be fine. Who cares about the mental harm that'll inflict on him or the physical harm an unstable man could do to him? Not the whole times infinity. Your friend needs to stop thinking of human lives like objects. Right? Like, what does it matter if your child gets kidnapped? Also, some kidnapped kids are never recovered. Some are unalived. Seriously, ditch the friend and keep doing what you're doing. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Your friend is an idiot who doesn't know what she's talking about. My cousins got kidnapped by their father, and he took them out of the country until he got sick of them. The police did absolutely nothing. You did the right thing, and you should probably dump that friend. The same thing happened to my cousins. It took my aunt 2 years and a series of very expensive lawyers to get them back. Yep, had a friend who had his wife served with divorce papers because he was extremely unhappy in the marriage. Counseling wasn't helping and he didn't want to be a cheater. Within 6 hours of her being served, she and his child went missing. The police said it was a civil matter. She went to a neighboring state and took our state 2 years to find her. During that time, his son forgot him and another man was daddy. He ended up giving his parental rights because he talked to a child psychologist who said it could be traumatizing for the child to be forced on a stranger, even if he is the father. Last story is titled, "Am I the a-hole for refusing to answer my sister's video call so she can see her baby?" Context. My sister had a planned pregnancy that involves having the baby daddy not being around and is determined to be an independent mom. She gave birth, had to give up her lease and move in with us at a different state. Not a short amount of time after, she managed to get her dream job, knowing that she still has her 6-month-old baby to take care of. This job was not a limited time position and is always hiring in masses every few months or so. She took the job, had to relocate to another state and left us with her baby. I quit my work before she came, so she expected me to take care of her baby. She calls every day to see her baby, and at first that's not an issue to me. But at some point, it just became very depressing for me that this past few months, all I have been doing is taking care of her baby while her IG stories are just her having fun on her job and partying at clubs on her day offs. She does come home once a while when she feels like it to see her baby. Mind you, with her line of work, she's able to fly freely to other states without any expense on her behalf. Recently, I expressed what I felt about watching her baby and she called me rude and selfish, and that it was my fault for not having a job. And in her own words, "You're family, you're supposed to help me out." Mind you, I did have some job offers, but could not take them due to the fact that the hours I have to work is the hours that I have to watch the baby. I can't just leave the baby unattended. She then called us, her family, screwed up family, because I did not answer her calls. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Call CPS and see about getting actual guardianship of this baby so that way you can make decisions and possibly apply for assistance with childcare. Like child support, you can force her to pay for a nanny or daycare. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole, and you should involve the authorities. Basically, she has abandoned her baby. It doesn't matter if you are family. Also, it might cause you trouble legally. Are you this baby's guardian? What rights do you have or does she have? It's really complicated and varies by state, so legal advice is essential. Some places, an occasional phone call may count as contact. Other than whatever emotional supports we can give OP, this is way beyond forum's pay grade. OP, please take care of yourself and please seek legal advice on your options and how to move forward. If you haven't already started keeping a journal of visits, contact, financial support, and baby-related costs you are paying, begin immediately. Wow, just occurred to me that you need to get legal advice ASAP about denying contact, Zoom, phone calls, etc. I don't mean to suggest it could be a crime, but you want to make certain you're in the clear if you deny contact.